The Kickr Core, I've had this bad boy for at least a year now, I think longer, but I get a little bit confused with COVID. So in this video, I'm gonna go over my experience with it and review it a little bit. And there's so many different videos out there reviewing the Kickr Core, and they're really good and they go into a lot of detail. So for me, in this one, I'm just gonna go over what I think is most important for me personally. First, I'm going to start off with the good points, and then I'm going to go over a couple of bad points. The first thing that was important for me when I was buying the Kickr Core, and you're probably familiar with this, is its compatibility with things like Zwift. For me, I didn't want to just be sat mindlessly spinning on the turbo trainer without any sort of plan or any sort of entertainment, so to speak. So I really wanted it to be compatible with Zwift, and that was one of the main things for me, and the Kickr Core certainly is. And it works really well linking up. It's really easy to do, and it just works within that ecosystem very well, with it being both Bluetooth and ANT+ ready. And if you've seen any of my previous videos, you know that I'm into Zwift racing and I enjoy it, and it's really good, and it's awesome to do it on this machine. So that's probably something you already know. And the next big thing for me was the noise. So I used to have a Tax turbo trainer, and it was a wheel-on turbo trainer, which is really good still. It linked up with Zwift still, it was compatible, it had Bluetooth, but because it was a wheel-on trainer, it made so much noise, it was so loud. And for me at home, wanting to train early in the morning, being really efficient with my training, jumping on trainer, getting it done, was much easier than kind of going outside and that sort of thing. But it meant I wanted to do it early in the morning. And with the noise it produced, it was then just difficult. If people were asleep, then it wasn't a good idea. And if people were watching TV, then it also wasn't really a good idea. So that made it a lot more difficult when it came to the training. So I started looking at direct drive trainers, like this one. Then the bike would connect directly to the turbo trainer itself. I try and play a kit with how much noise it makes, but it's such a big difference from a wheel-on trainer. You can only really hear the drive train of the bike. So if that's all clean, it's running smoothly, then it's almost silent. So that's really good, and that was massive for me. So there it is, that's the sound of it when you've got this camera and the microphone on top right next to the drive chain. You can hear really the only sounds are the drive chain, and to be honest, it's not perfectly indexed, and you can hear me also clipping in and clipping out, and that's kind of just as loud or even a little bit louder. And it's also pretty echo in here, you might be able to hear that from my voice. So I think that's pretty good representation. It's fairly quiet, and inside at home it's quite good. And it's probably quieter than my Wahoo fan, which I can actually put on now, and then you can hear that for a bit of a comparison. So I don't know what that sounds like, but that's the Wahoo fan on the lowest setting, and then this is it on the highest setting. So I think that's actually louder than the turbo trainer itself, and that's just a fan, albeit a pretty powerful one. I'll just quickly do another little test where I've got the camera set up where I would have my laptop, so a few feet in front of me on the turbo trainer, so you can see what that sounds like. It's again, it's a pretty echoey room. I don't really use it, it's quite small. And now we've got a brief intermission to tell you to subscribe to the channel, because apparently over 90% of you are not subscribed. So I'm probably going at a couple 100 watts now, and that's what it's like with the camera and the microphone a little bit further away from me. But again, it's still quite a closed, small room, so it's a little bit echoey. Another bonus of upgrading to a direct trainer like the Wahoo Kickr Core was its accuracy. And another thing that was probably good about it was a lot of people on Zwift were using very similar turbo trainers. So I think the accuracy of the whole thing was a lot better when it came to things like group rides and races, and even the training programs. At least you know you were putting out the amount of watts it was saying for the most part. And with my previous wheel-on turbo trainer, I had to keep making sure the tires were pumped up to make sure it had the same resistance against the roller, which is something I just don't have to worry about at all on this one. It just seems to be accurate out the box. So a couple of cons. The first one being the price. It's pretty pricey, although it depends what you compare it to. It's probably the cheapest direct drive turbo trainer that you can get with good accuracy and the compatibility and all of those things in one. So price, you know, it's difficult. It's good value for money, that's for sure, when you compare it to other things, but it's still pretty pricey. So if you can get it on offer or a discount or somebody selling it secondhand, I think that's a good thing to do. I'll put a link in the description below, just in case I find any sort of discounts for it. Another con for me is how easy it was to set up. I mean, it was fairly easy, to be honest, but I'm not super savvy when it comes to bikes. I'm definitely getting there, and every time I do something for the first time, it takes me a little bit of a while. But after that, it's much easier. So if you've not done it before, you've not connected your bike to a turbo trainer at all, I think it's a little bit fiddly to make sure you get the cassette on there and sort that out all out. But once you've done it, it's worth it. But that's just something to consider. You need to make sure you have got all the right tools and you can get that cassette on nicely. And another point whilst I'm here is you need to make sure the gears are indexed for both this cassette and the cassette on your bike. So you're gonna need the exact same cassette ideally. The last con for me, which isn't necessarily a con if you're keeping your bike on the turbo trainer all the time, you've got that dedicated setup. But if you're wanting to put it on and off all the time, this one's a little bit cumbersome for me anyway. I've got a through axle on my bike, so it means I need an Allen key rather than a quick release. And it's also pretty heavy and it's difficult to tuck away and store compared to my old wheel-on turbo trainer. And in terms of durability, ease of use, and have I had any other problems with it, I've had none whatsoever, and it's just been working pretty flawlessly, to be honest. So that's all good. So that's my thoughts on the Wahoo Kickr Core. If you've got any questions, then put them in the comments below. If you liked this video in any way, then please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you like videos around health, fitness, cycling, weight training, then that would be awesome. But until my next video, have a really good one and I'll see you then.